Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're here. If you're obsessed with figuring out how real wealth is actually built, well, you've hit the jackpot today. We're unpacking the exact blueprint of Sunil Tulsiani. We're going to see how a former police detective flipped a staggering 77 properties in his very first year. Yep, 77. And in the process, he unlocked the cash flow secrets the rich use every single day. All right, let's get right into it.
I mean, it literally sounds like a movie script, doesn't it? How on earth does a kid who started out in a Delhi slum, we're talking sharing one single room with 4 entire families, absolutely no electricity, 0 running water, how does he become a millionaire Canadian detective and then a massive real estate mogul? It's a complete paradox, and it's exactly what we're breaking down today.
Just think about the sheer contrast between these two numbers. $100,000. That was Sunil's salary as a highly successful police platoon commander and detective. A really solid living, right? But then, $980,000. That's nearly $1 million bucks, and he made that in his very first year of real estate investing right after leaving a 15-year career. I mean, how do you 10x your income in 12 months?
Section 1. The Wealthy Cop's Origin. Let's look at how he built that unstoppable resilience.
Sunil's life is just a masterclass in beating the odds. He literally went from a slum where they had to fold up their beds every morning just to make room for a makeshift kitchen, to moving to Canada where he faced some pretty severe bullying. Plus, he didn't speak English well at first, so he got put in a special school. The funny thing is, his parents actually thought that meant he was a genius. But you know what? That environment made him tough. By 1990, he was a top student, got into the police academy, and spent 15 years as a detective. He even cracked a huge undercover car theft ring. But then, in 2005, working crazy hours was tearing his marriage apart. So he made a massive pivot. He walked away from the force to save his family with absolutely zero clue what he was going to do next.
So here's where his mindset completely shifts. He sees a newspaper ad for a no-money-down real estate course by Robert Allen. At first, he chucks it in the trash, thinks it's a total scam. But then he goes back, digs it out, and actually drops $5,000 on it. And he gets to work. He writes down this crazy goal to make $200,000 in 3 months. And he actually pulls it off. But the most fascinating part is what he did next. To hit his new target, he grabs 16 sheets of paper, writes "I will make $1 million by this date," and just tapes them everywhere. I'm talking mirrors, kitchen cabinets, both sides of his closet. He literally physically surrounded himself with that $1 million goal. And guess what? He ended up pulling in $980,000 that year.
Section 2. Cash flow of the rich. This is all about how money actually flows.
Okay, so here is the exact trap most of us fall right into. Think about the middle class. Income comes in, and boom, it gets dumped straight into liabilities. We're talking expensive cars, big primary residences, things that just turn into constant outgoing expenses. It's like a pipe that just drains out. But the rich? They play a totally different game. They funnel their income strictly into assets, and those assets act like a machine, churning out more cash flow right back into their pockets. The big takeaway? We've got to stop buying liabilities disguised as assets.
Which naturally brings us to the ultimate debate, right? Should you buy the house you live in or should you rent it? Well, Sunil has a super direct, math-driven framework for this. Now, in places like the US or Canada, if a mortgage payment is pretty much the same as renting, buying can totally make sense. But if you're in a market, like a lot of cities in India, for example, where your monthly loan payment is double or even triple what it would cost to just rent that exact same place, his advice is crystal clear. Rent. Take that huge chunk of leftover cash and dump it straight into a business or an asset with a high ROI. Do whatever brings in the cash flow.
Section 3. The Real Estate Shark Tank. Let's look at this symbiotic framework. This model totally destroys the myth that you need money to make money in real estate. It operates a lot like the show Shark Tank, and it's exactly how Sunil flipped 77 properties in a single year. So you've got the active investor, which could totally be you. You put in 0 cash, nothing. Instead, you put in sweat equity by finding killer, undervalued deals and managing the fix-ups. Then, you bring that gold mine to a passive investor, the shark. The shark funds 100% of the deal. Now, why would they do that? Simple. They secure a legal lien on a highly undervalued asset. They can't get scammed because that property literally cannot be sold until they get paid back. It's a massive win-win.
Section 4. Finding motivated sellers. How do we actually find these deals?
This is such a fascinating concept. You know, in the stock market, acting on non-public knowledge is called insider trading, and it'll land you straight in prison. But in real estate,
It is 100% legal, and honestly, it's the absolute key to massive margins. By tapping into insider clubs or local government networks, you might find out a new highway or a big development is coming long before the public signs ever go up. Or you learn how to spot motivated sellers. These are folks going through a divorce or a sudden job relocation who absolutely have to sell fast. They don't just want to, they need to. So you get to buy at wholesale prices, way below market value.
All right, so once you snag that distressed property, what's next? You definitely don't gut the whole house. Sunil's formula is laser-focused. You spend maybe 10 to 20 grand upgrading only the kitchen and the washrooms. Why? Because the true decision-maker in buying the family home is usually the woman, and those are the spaces that drive the strongest emotional connection. He even uses NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, during the walkthrough. He'll say something like, "Imagine your family sitting over there. Where do you think you'd be cooking?" Just by putting in nice granite countertops and better doorknobs, he elevates the perceived value of the house by 50 grand. It triggers a purely emotional purchase. Just to show you how wild this gets, let's look at a real-world example from the source material. An active investor in Punjab used this exact playbook. He found a distressed flat originally worth 1.3 crores, but he scooped it up for just 85 lakhs. He used a passive investor's cash to fix it up and turned it into a 12-room paying guest facility. Now each room rents for 12,000 rupees. That creates a massive consistent cash flow of 1.45 lakh rupees every single month. That is the absolute power of finding motivated sellers. And the best part? It's a completely replicable formula.
Section 5. The art of plurking. Let's talk about choosing your life's work.
So Sunil actually coined this really fun term, plurking. It's a mashup of playing and working. And there's a huge distinction here because, look, it's not enough to be a rich doctor who absolutely dreads going to the clinic. And it's definitely not enough to be an artist who loves their craft but is flat broke. Neither of those is plurking. The real goal, the sweet spot, is finding that intersection where you're doing something you genuinely love, where time just flies by, but it also acts as an asset that generates serious wealth.
Section 6. Multiplying your value. How to become totally indispensable.
I really want you to internalize this rule, the 3x value rule. It honestly just comes down to raw math. If you're an employee, your salary is a strict expense to your company. And if you aren't delivering at least 3 times your salary in tangible, undeniable value back to your employer, well, you're just a cost center waiting to get cut. You absolutely have to transform yourself from an expense into a revenue-generating asset.
So how do you actually pull that off? First up, you've got to become a CAM, a client attraction machine. You need to learn sales and marketing, which really just means figuring out how to bring total strangers into your business. Second, you have to make your absence felt immediately. Sunil told this crazy story about an assistant who went on vacation for 2 whole weeks and he didn't even notice she was gone. If your boss doesn't feel the pain of your absence on day 1, you're expendable. And finally, upskill, but do it by learning exclusively from mentors, people who are actively running multi-million-dollar businesses and actually doing the work, not just teachers who are repeating textbook theory.
I want to wrap up this explainer with a really powerful thought from Sunil. He says, if you give me 100 rupees, I will give you 200 rupees worth of value minimum. What an incredible mindset to carry into literally everything you do. Whether you're flipping a distressed property, launching a startup, or just clocking into your daily job. Always go in with the intent to over-deliver. So here's my question for you today. Take a hard look at your life and your career right now. Are you currently giving the world double the value of what you take? And if not, what exact step are you going to take today to change that? Thanks so much for hanging out and learning with me today. Keep focusing on building that value.